The global shipping industry is already exhausted by pandemic shocks that are adding to inflation pressures and delivery delays. However, the worst is still to come. When one of China's busiest ports announced it wouldn't accept new export containers in late May because of a COVID-19 outbreak, it was supposed to be up and running again in a few days. But as the partial shutdown drags on, it is worsening trade route bottlenecks and lifting record freight prices even higher. Here are the details. Bloomberg reports that the shipping backlog created when a ship got stuck sideways in the Suez Canal for a week in March is nothing compared to the backlog the global shipping industry is currently facing. The bottleneck is currently so severe that it costs companies more than $11,000 to ship a 12-meter container from Rotterdam to Shanghai. That's almost 7 times more than it would have cost a year ago. On top of that, it's looking like retailers won't be able to restock their warehouses for the crucial Christmas season in the US and Europe, which means there might not be much to buy for Christmas, and things might cost a lot more. The biggest problem is that many ports had to cut back on container handling functions due to COVID outbreaks. The worst case is currently in YANTIAN Port, which is one of China's busiest ports. YANTIAN Port now says it will be back to normal by the end of June, but even if that pans out, it may take months for the cargo backlog in southern China to clear, while the fallout ripples to ports worldwide. U.S. Federal Reserve policymakers raised their inflation forecast on Wednesday, June 16th, partly because shipping bottlenecks have formed and supply fails to keep pace with demand. So it seems that this Christmas would be a good time to enjoy being with our loved ones rather than obsessing about material things. Sri Lanka's beautiful beaches are being swamped by billions of plastic pellets and toxins as the country deals with a massive and growing environmental disaster. The disaster started when a fire erupted on a container ship after it anchored near the port of Colombo. The ship's owners have been aware of an acid leak on the ship for weeks, but say they could not fix the problem because Qatar and India would not allow the ship to dock there. Here are the details. The BBC reports that Sri Lanka is dealing with a growing environmental disaster as billions of plastic pellets, oil, and dangerous chemicals from a sinking ship smother its coastline. The container ship, Express Pearl, left the Indian port of Hazura on May 15th, heading for Colombo. The ship had earlier sprung a leak of highly corrosive nitric acid, but its owners claimed they had been denied permission by both Qatar and India to dock the ship. While it was anchored off Sri Lanka's Colombo harbor, a fire broke out on May 20th. Sri Lankan officials believe the fire was caused by the leaking acid. The ship then burned out of control for 2 weeks before settling in the shallow waters of the harbor. In that time, hundreds of shipping containers fell into the sea, releasing toxins and billions of plastic pellets into the ocean. The plastic pellets have already covered miles of Sri Lanka's famously beautiful beaches. Experts say the pellets still in the sea could travel as far as India, Indonesia, and Somalia. Local fishermen were told to stay out of the ocean, but the fishermen say they need to fish to survive and will need to be compensated by the government. Sri Lanka has launched a criminal investigation into the disaster and says it will seek compensation. The world's busiest shipping channel, Egypt's Suez Canal, has been completely blocked by a huge container ship that ran aground after losing control, causing a long traffic jam of cargo ships in the region. The BBC reports that the tugboats and a digger have been deployed to help shift the 400-meter-long ship called the Ever Given, but there are fears it could remain trapped for many days. The incident occurred just north of the port of Suez early on Tuesday, March 23rd. The ship is lodged sideways across the waterway, blocking the path of dozens of other vessels, which are now trapped in lines in both directions. The ship's owners said they suspect the ship was pushed by a sudden strong wind, causing it to hit the side and run aground. Incidents such as this are rare, but could have huge ramifications for global trade. If canal personnel are unable to pull the ship free in a high tide, they would have to start removing cargo, which would be a very difficult task in the middle of the desert. The BBC reports that the Ever Given container ship has been successfully refloated after being stranded in the Suez Canal for almost a week. This after an around-the-clock international effort to dislodge the massive vessel and reopen the vital shipping lane. The intense salvage effort has focused on dredging sand from below the front and rear of the ship, while also pulling the ship with tugboats. Canal authorities said the container ship began to float successfully on Monday after finally responding to the pulling maneuvers of a number of tugboats. Workers managed to free the rear part of the ship first, swinging the stern into the canal, while the bow was still stuck in the sloping sand that forms the side of the canal. At that stage, tugboats were used to make sure a gust of wind and currents did not push the stern back into the bank bank while workers were still working to free the bow. The 6-day blockage cost Egypt an estimated $14 million per day. This is how car carrier ships look today. They're big ships, powered by messy diesel engines that produce a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And they spill a lot of oil and diesel fuel if they have accidents. This is how car carriers might look in the near future. The Ocean Bird is a proposed cargo yacht that would be able to carry 7,000 cars. Its designers say that it will use its giant wing-like sails for general propulsion, saving up to 90% in greenhouse gas emissions. The Ocean Bird's sails are like telescoping wings that can extend up to 80 meters high. Its length is a whopping 200 meters from stem to stem. Its width is an impressive 40 meters from starboard to port side. Swedish shipbuilding company Wallenius Marine announced that it will work with Swedish government organizations to build this giant sailship. The Ocean Bird is being designed to be large enough to carry 7,000 cars. The shipbuilder says Ocean Bird can make a transatlantic crossing in around 12 days, which is only slightly longer than the time taken by today's fossil fuel-powered cargo ships. When the wing sails are extended to their full height of 80 meters, the ship will have a height above waterline of 105 meters, making it the tallest ship ever built. And thanks to their telescopic construction, these sails can also be lowered, resulting in a height above the waterline of only 45 meters. This would come in handy when this very tall ship needs to pass under a bridge or when it sails through stormy weather. The Ocean Bird's giant wing sails will be made of a mixture of metal and composite materials. They will be twice the height of sails on the largest sailing vessels around today. According to Wallenius Marine, their Ocean Bird concept shows that the maritime industry can bring about major change and that zero-emission shipping is possible if ship designers use wind. Shocking images show a massive Venezuelan oil tanker tilting dangerously near the island of Trinidad in the West Indies. According to CBS News, the giant ship is carrying more than 300 million liters of oil and is anchored in the Gulf of Paria, a gulf only around 100 kilometers across between Venezuela and the country of Trinidad and Tobago. The Venezuelan tanker has been parked in the Gulf for nearly 2 years, carrying around 1.3 million barrels of oil. That's about 5 times the amount of oil that the Exxon Valdez famously spilled in 1989. Environmentalists and scientists are extremely concerned that a storm at sea could cause the oil in the unstable ship to slosh around. Such a situation could cause the ship to flip over, which would lead to an oil spill much bigger than the disastrous Exxon Valdez oil spill. If this happens, the entire region will be covered in sticky oil for decades, causing a massive ecological disaster and destroying the unique beauty of the area.
For more news animations and explainers, hit the subscribe and bell button to join the TomoNews family. Thanks for watching.